For coming, and if you guys have any questions for us at this time, we'd be more than happy to answer those questions.
Actually, it's not necessarily just a Q&A, but if you want to discuss things more,
Comments, whatever.
it's just what we want to do. Anyone have anything they wrote down you want to share or anything like that? Awesome ideas.
I mean, it's an awesome idea, but
Well, it's very difficult now with the system we have, right? It seems like impossible. But the point is, it's not that you change something right now. It's not an overnight process. What it is you have to keep these ideas in your head and say, okay, these values that I used to be working with are probably not the right values for us going forward. So if I change them, then my actions and my choices will be changed as well. If I share these values with other people, then they can change as well. And once a lot of people have that value system, people can get together and match in these directions. But it's not, what can I do right now to solve all the problems? That's not the kind of thing we're doing.
It's a multi-generational change that we're looking at. I mean, it's, if it could happen, in 5 years, it would be great, right? But the numbers is what matters. And it could be possible. I mean, if we get the numbers, we can make a change in our lifetime. But, I think one of the questions that either Peter Joseph or Fresco had mentioned once, or one comment was how far down your bloodline do you care? Do you just care? Do you stop caring about your kids? Or are you going to care about your grandkids? Or their grandkids? Where do you stop caring and saying, at that point, it doesn't matter? We have to make that decision. And who knows how long we'll live. I mean, some of us may live to 70, 80, 90, and, maybe we'll get to,
Definitely the first part is taking consciousness of what's happening so that people start thinking. But I guess at this point in time, we should start thinking of mechanisms to bring change. For example, in my personal business, I provide solely for myself and my family, and I don't have an egotistical idea of acquiring more than what's necessary for me. See, so I try to be around people that have the same ideology, and we exchange our services amongst ourselves, and we have our community that we provide for ourselves, right? Basically. But of course, there are external things that we need, that aren't provided for, so we still must work. If I could just work to provide you with what you need to sustain yourself, then I would, because in return you would sustain me.
Yeah.
But that's not practical today. It can be if we group ourselves into providing to this group of ideology the services and materials needed for growth. So,
And even in that idea, people want to start communities, for small people. But eventually that kind of idea falls apart because not everyone in the world feels that way. And their system will conflict with yours. Ultimately, you have the same problem all over.
exactly.
So the reason this is a global movement, this is one of 300 plus showings around the world, in the coming days. we're trying to get everyone, that we can interested, involved, and start thinking about these alternative mechanisms that we can employ. These are the, that's the main goal, to get people aware. And once they are aware, we can start having otherwise, thinking about the choices they have in terms of what they can do.
People start changing their values and realize what's important and what's not important, which is the main key. Do I want to be working for a big, huge house where I got to pay more electricity, more, which was, I thought of those things growing up, right? Because those are the things that are put into your head. You think that that's what you want, but do you really? I mean, wants are just things that you're conditioned to want, right? I mean, needs are things that are. I mean, you need them.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
You know what I mean? What if that is what you really want?
What do you mean?
Like a big house and pay more.
But see, those
change
things are conditioned. I mean, it's hard to change it in somebody, right? But the more you learn, the more you're able to reach people. Because some people you reach them through this, some people you reach them through this. I mean, that's, I mean, some people will sit here through the first 5 minutes and just leave. It'll take more work to reach that person than it would to reach you. We got to start with the ones we know. We got to start with the ones we know and the ones we can reach, and branch out, and eventually, the reason we're brainwashed is because they steal our kids at the age of 5. You got to put them in the school system, and if you don't, I mean, they can come after you. That's just the way it is. You have to put them in, unless you do a homeschooling, right? But then you have to ask permission. And how many people can homeschool their kids? Because more than likely, both parents have to work, just to make ends meet. It's more expensive, it's more expensive. The system is
the source.
What was that?
The biggest thing would be that then that's to change the source.
Exactly, that's
where
what
you're being conditioned.
Where you're being conditioned.
That's what change most effective.
That's the ultimate point of this new resource-based economy and the new society that we're trying to redesign. If we start, teaching people that the important things in life are the environment that sustains us and our relationships with other people, and that if other people do well, I do well, and if we all contribute to everyone's well-being, then we can all, reach our fullest potential and provide more so for each other than we ever could before. And that's why, we're trying to get a society redesigned from the ground up. If we don't do that, then the old ways of thinking and doing things will continue to invade our mechanisms in our society, and that will cause conflict and problems. And that is exactly the point, to start educating. Even like you said, before birth, we need to start developing a society that cares for life. We don't care for life in our society right now. We care about houses, the housing market, or the automobile industry, and things like that.
What are the chapters doing here locally in the valley other than just showing?
Well, our chapter, the Rio Grande Valley chapter, has only been around for about 5 months. So this was our major, project for this period of time. And March, in the middle of March, we're going to have another major project, which is called Z-Day, which is a global presentation day. It's for interacting with the community, giving them information and education about what the ideas are and the things we plan on trying to accomplish with this movement. And
how would you go about give me an example of something really small that you could take to, I don't know, say a school. Okay, what would you?
So it's like a public school?
Yeah, let's say,
we can create lectures, we can create presentations and say, like, focusing on a certain area, like energy production, or the new type of city that explains that has all these things in it. We can break it down into smaller areas, but ultimately, say at the end that this is only a small part of the real change that needs to happen for us to do better as a society, as a civilization.
One thing you want to introduce to kids is the idea of working together. What you can accomplish as a group as opposed to what you can accomplish individually, which is what we promote more. Individualism, as to, you're competing with this person, as opposed to as a group.
Working together.
What can we do as a group,
Basically, to me, this comes down to love. I mean, just loving one another, and if we've got that, we'll be able to help each other.
Well, one example.
I mean, that's just how I
Yeah, but unfortunately, in our language, love is a very hairy word, and it has a lot of different meanings in our particular constrained language. Ultimately, generally, what you mean by love is extensionality. Your feelings for other people, your empathy, the desire to see other people do well, because in many people, when you see someone suffering, it makes you suffer, because there's part of your brain that causes that to happen. And so what we want to do is minimize suffering. And that's ultimately kind of like where one of the parts of love occurs. And our desire to be with others, procreate, and pair bond, and live together in order to create more life. That's also a big part of our biology. And so these kind of different extensionalities are going to be promoted as opposed to looked down upon or otherwise excluded from society. Right now, people don't have positive relationships with their families or things like that because of the external pressures put on them. So these are the things that we try to avoid in this new society.
How good is the communication between the chapters and Joseph and the writers, the production team behind Zeitgeist? Because I'm sure it's not just Joseph. He has to have a team behind him.
The structure of the Zeitgeist movement today, as it's existed for the last couple of years, is that it's really kind of a grassroots effort. I mean, there's local chapters for a given region or area or city or something like that, and we all have there's state or over regional chapters depending on where you live.
There is a hierarchy per se that a person that you're showing this to has a really good idea. Would the channel permit an idea that somebody has in the public to actually turn into a production that the Zeitgeist movie or the Zeitgeist movement would, back?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If we have an idea that's aligned with this kind of idea, then it's a very powerful idea or a design or something like that.
That backing from the movement.
Right. The Zeitgeist movement does have particular teams, development team, communication team, projects team, stuff like that. And if you would like to join or help these people, they can certainly use any ideas you generate and take it into the whole of what we're trying to do. So they do have teams for that particular purpose that are global in nature and otherwise accepting of ideas. These are generally Peter Joseph's films. He produces them, and he says that they're supporting documents of the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement. This is not like gospel or anything about the movement itself or the Venus Project itself. It's just a communication tool to help people understand what we're trying to do.
But that channel is open well enough to where, say an idea here can go to the Venus Project founder to be contemplated and maybe even included in the future.
Yeah, I mean, of course, they're. It's just we just have to kind of be careful because sometimes the ideas we're bringing come from the monetary background, and we just don't we don't see them sometimes. We don't see the connection between the idea and the goal that we're trying to reach. It's hard to really step back and start realizing that the pressures that are on everybody. It's hard to look at a criminal and say that. Or a murderer or a serial killer and say that it's not his fault. It's not easy. Most people can't do that. Even after it's still not easy to say that.
So what would happen to them? I mean, I know that they mentioned they're going to get help, but what would it be? Would it be impossible?
Well, keep in mind that the goal is always to reduce problems. It's always there's never going to be. It could be that you eliminate murder completely, right?
Yeah.
But it could happen. But if you're in a society where 1 in 1,000 people are murdered, and then in a society where 1 in 1 million people are murdered, I mean, you've reached a better goal. So yeah, there's going to be some kind of assistance, either some kind of hospital or some kind of thing, but
we help the person as opposed to lock them away and rehabilitate them in a confined space.
But the goal is going to be to find out what caused this person to kill. Is it really the fact that he's got some chemical imbalances, which again is not his fault, so we have to make sure that we got to trace it. Was it something that mom ate? Was she around a certain factory where she, where the chemical imbalance in the kid that was growing, winded up?
Yes.
So you're saying more like doing research about it?
Oh, it's going to be completely scientific. Completely scientific. Everything's going to be scientific. Nothing's going to be left to just someone's opinion. You know, and everything can be scientific. I mean, you can prove that scientifically that murder is not going to be successful.
And adding on to what Frank said earlier about it's a transition and it's not an overnight thing. When the system collapses, there's going to be, like, stuff's going to hit the fan, you know. And we're not going to go from one day to the next where nobody kills or nobody dies or nobody commits murder. We're going to create the society which will help reduce those numbers as a transition, like along the way. So we find the root problems and we create the new society without those causes. We eliminate the causes, so the results will be fewer murders and fewer crimes.
And how do you create? How do you go about it?
Well, what?
One of the first things we were going to try to do is, in order to verify that these ideas are possible, one of the stated goals is to produce a test city, that implements these kind of ideas. And once you have a self-sustaining city that can produce for itself and feed people and people can live in it, that's part of the scientific method, is to implement it and test and verify. And once we show this to people, saying this is a way that it's possible to live, then people might start demanding it in their lives, wanting it to be implemented a far greater scale. But that's one of the goals of what we're trying to do. So hopefully it becomes attractive to people in that way.
How many members are in your shop?
Currently we have about 15 or so people that come to the meetings, but on the mailing list we have about 57 or so. So the point is, we're not really after numbers. We're not trying to, we're not after numbers per se. We want people to understand it and grow and learn and educate themselves and help educate others. And that's what really our interest is in. So if you really want to do that, if you want to start learning things that are not necessarily the things you've learned before about the way the world can be, this is what we want to do in terms of going forward with our traffic.
If you follow the pattern, things just keep going, getting worse and worse and worse, right? So the goal of the movement also is to, because if it were to collapse today, imagine all the violence and all the, that's going to happen. So if we can inform enough people and educate enough people and change their values, as it starts going down, it can also be going up at the same time, because people are going to think differently. They're gonna have a direction.
We have an option.
We're going to have a better option, instead of just simply turn into what it always has. The sad thing is that it usually takes some kind of disaster for people to change. We're hoping that if we can convince enough people and open their eyes to something better, then we may not have to have that huge disaster. That of course would be nice. But we have to remember that we're all connected. One of the example that I use the most with when I talk to people, and I talk to a lot of people because I teach here at STC, is my daughter. If all I do is try to provide for her, and I forget about your kids, then your kids are going to want to take from her and harm. So my goal is to produce a better world for everybody. And if you do the same, then who knows what we can accomplish.
Well, I see it happening pretty soon with an independent company building their own city, producing their own product, and selling to the exterior world. Since you're living in a new scheme, you of course have to populate it, right? But that's the only way I see it actually happening in real sense.
Well, there is
a company saying, you know what, we're going to build our city here with this ideology, and we mine copper, right? And we sell this copper to the exterior world, and they do their thing. We use the money for our scheme of thought. Right?
Well, the difference between that kind of idea and what the Venus Project City is about is it's not about selling things. It's about providing sustainably for the people who live there and self-sustainably in a sense. They're not interested in selling products to other people. That's not the goal of the city. I mean, I've heard of other cities that try to do this. There's something called Masdar City in the Middle East, and their stated goal is to not only build a futuristic city out of with outdated technology. They're not building their cities, with materials and techniques that are far more advanced than what we use today, in large amounts. But they're building a city and going to produce green products to sell the world. Right? That's their goal. It's not at all based on sustainability or a new society to live in. Their goal is and again profit motive related.
Because if you go with what you're saying, if the city, if the company were to build something that sustains itself, then why would they have to sell?
Well, there needs to be a step in order to get to where their ultimate goal is.
But then
and the way things are today, there's going to need to be a middle point between complete self-sustainability and the way things are today. And unless everybody adopts this ideology in one sitting down, it's not going to happen.
I agree with you, though, on those steps that are going to be taken, and you can see them already. And there's a lot of companies that, like he says, are using green stuff, but they're also making like these. I've seen some they're like little round houses. They're based on like a tent, but it's just one round living space. It's got like the bathroom, the bed, the kitchen, and everything. And it comes with the solar panels and everything. So those are little steps, and then you have like compost toilets and things that are being made like that, where people are getting these little houses that are made out of like storage trailers. It's like a little storage trailer, and you got your futon, your refrigerator, your stove, and your compost toilet, and you're self-sufficient on the land. So those, like Frank mentioned, that's not the idea of the movement, but those are definitely steps in the right direction, because it's people like that are going to be thinking globally and environmentally.
A family member who's like that will most definitely not even contemplate a society. It's going to be logical that why inside our compound was provided for.
Yeah.
Why would I even go to that exterior world where people are killing each other for money? That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Isolation is engendered in people. We're taught to not, interact with other people because, don't talk to a stranger. Don't interact with other people on a level that might make you think that they're more alike and different. We're exposed to imagery and news reports of people being so far different from you that they commit murder, and you start believing that that's the only type of person. So, the only people that I don't know are bad people. So that helps engender this kind of, like they were stating, this hierarchy in many different spots. So we have these little towers of humanity, and since you don't see anyone that's like you, it's very hard for you to socialize and care about other people. Yes?
I'm a little bit confused because it makes it seem like everything's going to be technological and there's no more jobs. So what are people going to do? And then it showed the big man saying that.
The question is, if you start off as a child, the only thing you want to do is explore, and that's all you do. That's all you do until somebody sits you down and says, "Hey, you know what? Stop messing around. You're gonna have to get a job."
But what about people that enjoy what they do and they go into?
That would be fine. If somebody enjoys cooking for somebody, then let's say I enjoy cooking. Then I'm going to invite people to come eat at my place or wherever I can find, and I'll cook for people. I don't have to charge you because I'm doing it out of my. I don't have to buy the food. I don't have to rent places. I'm just cooking for the people that I want. If I want to make an art painting, I do it. I can paint it, and then I give it away to people because there's no need for me to sell it. I don't need money to survive.
So another thing they say in accordance with that is that right now we're kind of trapped in this little like a gerbil wheel. You know what I'm saying? And we all want free time. We beg for it. We wait for the weekend. So what they're saying is they're going to free up so much time that you're going to even be able to evolve your fun. It's going to be that much better because you have no stress involved in it.
Well, the more practical answer is that once we shift values to sustaining life and caring for other people, and we have our needs provided for in a way that does not require our time to be spent, so much so that we're exhausted and can't really spend energy on something else. Our desires will become those of solving problems that face all of humanity. All those problems that can affect any other person. Not just these kind of people, or not just those kind of people. All people, which is necessarily disease. The natural disasters. How do we help develop new systems that might mitigate the consequences of that? space exploration. How do we get to a different planet? Because this is still a finite world. We might want to expand into different solar systems and stuff like that. We will devote ourselves to resolving those issues, and those issues are far more complex. And we'll never, since life is not any time going to be perfect. There will always be problems and things, limitations that we'll bump into, and we'll have a desire to see, how much farther we can go, or what kind of problem we can solve. There will never be perfection attained. We can only learn a little bit more about the world, and then build off of that and continue to do so. That's what we imagine that our driving forces will continue to do, because it's what's generally been happening since we've been evolved into
Yeah, the exploration drive will never end.
But I think like the opposite. I think like the crime rate would increase because kids like I think kids with more free time, they don't have to go to school. They just be roaming around.
But no, there's going to be these cities are equipped with so much activities. You have all kinds of centers for everything.
we have educational systems that are developed. We have the understanding that people need to be educated in some way, but we don't educate them in terms of these are the rules that we've created because of our own opinion. Why is that the case? Because I said so. That's the kind of thing that stopped development for so very long in terms of what we can accomplish. When we say these are the underlying rules of the universe that no one can change, and what can we do with them? We start creating things based off that, and we start asking more questions, and they can say, "Why is this?" Well, because of these things. And then if they ask a question and we honestly don't know the answer to, we can say, "I don't know. Maybe one day you'll find out," and stuff like that. These, education, the way we implement it today is very bad because it's implemented in a way that makes you the same. We try to make everyone sit down and shut up, and we put them in a room and we say, learn these facts and figures, and then we shoot them out into the real world where, ultimately their job is flipping burgers or something like that because everything else is being done by machines so far. We give them degrees that ultimately they can't pay back the loans on because of the economy is collapsing. We do not prepare them for life at all in any sense of the word. So that's the kind of education system we won't have, and that's we'll have something interesting that we can do. People don't want to go to school because it's terrible. We can produce a system that is not terrible, and they can go do that, and that will be better for them.
And the way
everything that they do is going to serve a function. When you go to get educated, you're serving you're getting educated to do something productive in the world. Like right now we have, if you're a banker, what do you produce really? It's only for this system. It has nothing to do with the actual physical world. It doesn't have nothing whatsoever. You have lawyers. People go to school for law for years. For what? It only works in this system. That's not based on.
I like to color what they say too. I like to give a little bit of color to what these guys say because a lot of times when you hear this kind of stuff, it sounds very black and white because you're talking about these undeniable laws and stuff, and they're saying it has to be something that betters the world. It has to be this and that. But I like to paint it a little bit and say that there's no, like they say, there's no restrictions on what education you can have because you don't have to pay for it. So everybody can be educated equally. So therefore you can choose what you want to be educated in, what field. So it would be a field that interested you. Let's say, and I'll give like a modern day example, for instance, like somebody that wants to be a DJ or something, then they would be able to attend classes on how to make some kind of eco-friendly electronic gadget where they can create their own sounds, but all the technology is going to be available, and there's not going to be that restriction to where, well, you're going to have to work so hard to make so much money to get it. Instead, it's going to be like, look, this is how you make it. All the supplies are here. You can learn how to do it. So you get involved in the process of creating something. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that's how it's going to be, but those are just some of my ideas of how I conceptualize the thing, how I make it real in my head. Like, okay, well, let's say, I wanted to play guitar for the rest of my life, and so I can learn how to make a guitar, and I can get all the supplies, and then I can be a guitar maker, and I can give a guitar to my neighbor's kid and give them lessons. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of ideology is how I like to color it, you know?
And building on top of that, what we do now is we teach kids, you know, subjects in isolation. This is physics, this is math, this is, you know, biology. We don't teach kids that all these things are interrelated and in fact depend upon each other. People are taught to be specialized because specialization is what feeds the monetary system. You need a person to make this widget and only this widget, and if you do other things, it's not productive in the sense of profit. But we can teach people that everything is interrelated and everything depends upon everything else in a sense. So if we teach them the fundamentals of the universe, then they have a much better understanding of why things are the way they are, why we produce bridges this way, or why do we produce society this way. If people understood that, then we wouldn't have the problems we have today. People wouldn't base their economy on oil if they understood that it's resources that's in decline. You know, these are the kind of problems that would vanish essentially in these kind of educational systems.
How has the movement in your life, give me an example of what it changed in your life?
Well, that's not necessarily the movement has changed something. The ideas, I don't think from the ideas that the movies have sparked to me is that I've always known something is kind of wrong because in my life and in my community, money was always kind of a problem, and so I never understood that it was the problem and why it was the problem. And these films have helped make me understand that it's inherently unfair and it's inherently
But if that wasn't changing, what did you do to change in your own personal life?
Well, I've reduced my desire to help the monetary system continue. I've cut down on buying things or working on things and stuff like that. So that's how it's changed my value set. But everyone's going to react to it a different way, and ways that is conducive to their ability to continue to live and otherwise exist in this kind of system we have, which is it's extremely difficult. I mean,
No, it is, because I think the change needs to come, each one has to put in, like in español, el granito de arena, cada quien.
Yeah. Yep. When we talked about that too, about our meetings and stuff, because there's like 15 of us, and each one of us is completely different from the other, and so we take that whole idea of each one is a piece of the puzzle, and.
By example, you made a change in your life using this, and so we can see what it did in your life.
but it's important.
So I, it's like,
Not only is it possible, see the media.
no, but that's why I'm asking you. How, if it was just one small little thing, that small little thing impacted you in some way.
It's important to understand that none of like me or Armando are not necessarily leaders in the movement. We don't really like the idea of leadership.
No, but I mean, you're getting the word out there. It's just like a preacher or a pastor, somebody getting out the word, that kind of thing. But you're educating people, getting people aware of what's really right. That's basically not as a leader, but I like to see, like, if you're going to be talking about something, that you strongly believe in, I'd like to know, how did that impact your life? What changes did it make? Because, I don't know you personally, so I wouldn't be able to see how that changed you.
Well, it's
or your
important.
immediate family, you know what I'm saying?
It's important to understand that we can evaluate ideas independently of people.
Yeah.
So if you can understand that an idea is inherently good in the sense that promotion of life and these kind of things that are hopefully common, then you can evaluate it based on that. Not necessarily, you say you believe these things, but yet
you don't do what what you're showing or
because
presenting.
whatever he does doesn't take any validation of what the ideas are.
Because we live in the system, Even if Peter Joseph has to make money, he has to pay for these films,
How do you pay for that?
He works. He's an advertiser or something like that.
He works in advertising, and he used to work in the market. He used to be a stock market person, and he got sick of it because he saw what it was doing. And so he started making films and exploring why things are the way they are. It's really grown into something worldwide. It's remarkable, but even him, he doesn't claim to be a leader in any sense. He claims to communicate.
I'd like to share something that I do, and not like he said, there's no leaders or anything, but just so you can have an example of something concrete that I've been doing for years. And I did it before the Zeitgeist movement, but since I found it, I kind of just gravitated towards it because I like the idea. Just like Frank said, the idea is something positive. It's something that kind of correlates and goes along the same parallel as what my beliefs already were, whether they were from Christian base or about love or whatever, but they kind of coincide. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm helping to promote it. But one of the things that I do is I'm a musician and I write music and I record it. Why give it away? I give it away and I tell people that that as a musician you have influence, and so like you mentioned earlier about the example. So to be an example, to let people know that I can do something and I don't have to sell it. Like it's not going to define me. And even a step further than that, to say to them, I won't make myself a product. I'm not going to brand myself and say, hey, guess what? I'm for sale. Buy me, buy me, buy me. That goes against everything that I believe, everything that is aligned with what these guys are telling me. So I give my MP3s away on websites. You can download them. There's even one where it goes to charity if you download it for free. So because I want people to just see that you can do things and you can give them away, and you can let go of the whole idea that no, it has worth, it has value, and you have to make money out of it, or you're being fooled, or you're being duped. And so those little steps that we can do right now, like you asked earlier about what can we do now, or what, or it's even as simple as when we get together, everybody brings some fruits or some food or something, and we end up having we like a little potluck or something with your neighbors or something, that kind of stuff. Like a potluck with your neighbors, or just going and saying hi to your neighbor. That kind of stuff is like what he said. It's just an idea, and you got to inch it till the time comes when everybody's going to be forced to make the choice. Like the end of the film kind of.
It seems like it's going to come down to something like that.
I mean, it's, and little by little, people do whatever they're comfortable with as far as withdraw and support, and what like I don't vote. I've never voted, and I don't plan on voting because I know it has no change,
You get called to jury duty.
If I'm called to jury duty, I throw the thing away. If I get the jury duty, I just throw it away. It's that simple.
They've never.
Well, I come from a different background also because lately I've been studying law and I do certain things, and I do have a court date on the 9th for a table that we had, so you can have an idea of the system. We set up a table on an art walk on December the 3rd or whatever, and just for having a table, I mean, we could have chairs and sit down in that same area, but if you have a table and you don't get permission from these people, they'll give you a ticket. You know what I mean? They'll find it.
Well, yeah, just like
So-
when you're having a garage sale at your house, you gotta go get a permit to sell your stuff.
And I think the truck is like $2, right?
Yeah.
And what if you don't sell anything? You're having the garage sale to make money, maybe to feed yourself. Who knows?
It's like fight for another.
$5 or whatever. So I myself in Montana, we have a different organization going on, and we try to do some civil disobedience. We try to do things that could get us in trouble, but we're more comfortable because we've done research in that area. You know what I mean? So I'm okay getting a speeding ticket because I can go challenge it and I can fight it properly.
Well, I did that. I got 4 tickets in a year, and I challenged 2 and lost.
But the important thing is to obviously find information and make sure that information has a certain goal. And the goal, our goal is a better life for everybody. For everybody.
If you were speeding, then you were speeding. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Why are you going to challenge something that you know you did wrong?
That's a perfect example of the kind of
It's
system
an opinion.
we have.
Well, I mean, if you're going 75 miles an hour.
Okay,
80
that's
miles
fact.
an hour. Well, I mean, I was going 80 miles an hour.
Well, the point of
the loophole, I guess you could say, is to not pay it.
the point of the law is to fix systems to fix problems without really fixing them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the point is that our transportation system is unsafe, right? And so what they do is they start fining you money, and otherwise they create laws to fix things, but they don't fix anything. Laws have never protected or done anything.
And it's really just money for them. They don't care about those people. They don't care about your safety. It's not the goal.
And that's why in the Venus Project, they talk about the railway stuff that will reduce crashes and.
If we intelligently built our automobiles and transportation systems, we can avoid accidents pretty much entirely almost. They would severely reduce accidents and deaths and
It was
injuries.
built for safety.
Yeah,
The
if we,
monetary,
but the reason we don't is because
they need to make money.
it's not, you know.
I mean, why? I haven't seen a highway that says 150 miles an hour. Why can I buy? How come I can buy a car that goes 140? What's the goal of
Why
it,
make,
right?
why build cars that
The
can
thing
go
is,
faster than when you're
because they know
faster?
I'm going to use it and I'm going to waste more gas and have more parts and all these things or whatever. It's only when I get caught that they can charge me that extra whatever they want to charge me for. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why build it?
Same thing with, registration or inspection. You know, the car manufacturers make an unreliable vehicle, and then the state fines you because it becomes unreliable after a certain amount of time.
During its life cycle. Expected life cycle.
It's built so that they keep taking money from you, and when they're taking money from you, what are they really taking? Your time and effort, right? Because how did you obtain that money, right?
Yeah, by
Through working. So they're stealing your labor, and it all trickles up to that 1% that takes, whatever is considered wealth for that society. And our lifestyle just keeps, degrading.
Now, the shooting in Tucson, you mentioned something that
They try to relate it.
they're trying to relate.
Yeah, they
that
mentioned
young man
the movie and other. I think they
Yeah.
mentioned Zeitgeist and Loose Change and some other movie. I don't know the name of the movie.
Donnie Darko or something.
Yeah.
And anyway, well, the point of that is they'll try to blame anything and everything except the sick culture that produced, this individual.
Yeah, that's what I was trying. But I mean, it just depends. If you have someone who already has a mental problem or has some issues, watching something like that without any guidance or help.
But the same thing happens. I mean, you never hear. Most assassins are military trained. You never hear like, hey, you know what? We need to put a stop to the military because we produce these assassins that kill people in the real in our society. But you don't hear that because that benefits them. You know.
An adverse reaction is always expected, at least on a very marginal level. You always gotta expect what you're not expecting to happen. Like somebody watching the movie without any instruction or supervision and taking it out, all of his frustrations out on others, like that. And you can't discard it wasn't fueled by, like, it might happen.
But it could also have been fueled by the fact that he's in a system where there's pressure.
As they noted, people who have been abused are also become violent criminals. And reportedly, this individual had a history of abuse and stuff like that. So again, it all comes back down to our environment.
And addressing that too, it's he was 22 years old, so you take 22 years of conditioning, and then you compare it to a 2-hour movie, and it's very easy for them to just say, "Oh, it was that movie," But without considering the whole 22 years and the parenting and the school, the bullying, whatever could have happened, it's irresponsible to blame a film, and they'll try to, they're doing it.
It's easier to sell that.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge to try and shut movements down like
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
In
Yes.
their beginning.
The problem is with movements that are geared for peace and don't advocate any violence, it's hard to make them look bad. Because we don't have a building full of guns sitting there that we're going to use to defend ourselves. Oh, because now it gives them some kind of legitimacy. These movements don't have anything like that. How do you make them look bad?
Make them frightening, attach them to frightening people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and blame it all on them. And again, not examine at all the underlying issues that produce these actions. Are there any other questions or comments about the film itself or anything like that?
How do I go about explaining movement to, for example, my father is one of those uber Catholics who has freedom of ministry on their Ford pickup, and any type of thing to explain to them that the movement is immediately shut down. Like, oh, you crazy liberal, just shut up. When I strongly believe in the movement. My husband showed it to me.
Hello?
A few
Yeah.
years back, but I'm having trouble
Overwhelmed with them?
trying to get away from it. I come from
Or more than we do?
that
I feel like
thing that we're trying
more
to
than we do.
stop. I just want to know how can I at least try to express the movement without immediately just getting shut down.
The problem, in a lot of cases, people are ignorant of what's really happening in the world. Okay, the only thing they really know or understand is what they've been taught and conditioned to believe in their entire life. And it's very difficult to get over that, especially at more advanced stages. We really have these things ingrained in us. It's very difficult to overcome. If it's his religion, do you think it's his religion that's giving him more problems in this area?
I feel it's his great change,
Okay.
and I've tried to do the same thing. I'm still in high school. I'm a senior in high school, and he's a freshman. He went to PA, but his he distributed a whole mass of DVDs for our school.
About 50 DVDs for people that have a response to it.
And those teachers, they've tried to show the film,
Which film are you talking about?
there's first Zeitgeist.
Oh, the first one.
Nice.
Well, I mentioned religion. He's an atheist. I'm something else.
Right.
How there are people who listen to everything, and then once they hear the religious part, they become so offended they immediately dismiss everything else.
Okay. Well, the important thing to realize is that the Venus Project itself does not really have anything against religion per se. What they advocate is the scientific method. And they say using the scientific method is what's given us all the things we have. You can point out to your father, the car you drive, the house you have, the clothes you wear, everything is based on a technological, scientific advancement that we've discovered as humankind. These things have nothing to do with religion per se. These things are things that we've been able to create and do because of our minds and because of the knowledge that we can share with each other in the future, going in the future, generational abilities, things like that, and the first Zeitgeist movie had nothing really to do with the Venus Project and the value shift that we're advocating. So I think Zeitgeist Addendum might be, more of a better view because they talk about the root problems and proposed solutions. They kind of minimize the discussion about religion, but the religious aspect is really a core rationality that a lot of people have. It's something that they know and believe to be true, despite very little scientific evidence for it to be the case. And that's very difficult to get around, and I don't really have any particular advice for your particular situation because I'm not familiar with your father or those individuals. But even if he doesn't share your views, they're still your views and not necessarily his. So you can, it's a hard thing to suffer with a parent or loved one not understanding or caring about what you believe or what you want. But hopefully over time.
Well, primarily respecting your dad.
But,
And I guess that's where you can start off without getting into an argument about why you should think one way or why you should think you disrespecting each other, never losing that respect, because ultimately he's still your dad.
Yeah, another thing is that, you can say that our goal is to implementation of loving people, all people over the world, to provide for them. Jesus said a lot of things about providing for the poor, feeding them, giving them water, visiting the
That's
people.
why I said, basically,
So,
it boils down to
Yeah,
that.
and that's what
it's very in line with, those kind of religious practices.
I was going to say. My parents are hardcore Catholic, and we have these discussions like what I call like table talk. Like we'll say we're having dinner or lunch, then we'll casually talk about the news, and then I'll see if I can fit anything in. that will like slip a good part, a really, really good positive point of the Zeitgeist movement or whatever, and just slip it in like, oh man, this movement is about creating food for everybody. Could you, and then like, could you imagine this place, where it's like, everybody's helping everybody, or I'll do the opposite side of the spectrum where there's something on the news that's just horrible, then I'll try to find some way to connect it to where my parents will connect it to the monetary system. Like say, man, man, that probably wouldn't have happened if, this,
Healthcare.
yeah, healthcare is one of them. You can, like, how can they not help these people?
That it's broken.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you're Catholic or.
And then I got lucky. I got lucky recently because my stepfather just got on Medicare, and worked all his life, and then now he's got to pay, for the Medicare Advantage plan. So he's got to pay for an insurance that's already his, supposedly. You know what I'm saying? So then.
But what do? You need it.
And then he's retired, so he gets a check. Well, now that he's got Medicare, they're going to give him less on his check. So not only are they taking out from his check, he's got to pay an extra. So you take those kind of situations that get them enraged, that get them like emotional and fueled, and you use them to throw in your ideas, when you get a chance.
See, we're going to. Oh, you just mentioned that word necessary evil. We get conditioned to believe that we need these things, but we
Right,
don't.
that's not saying it's like a necessary evil. People think that it's needed, but at the point that say now, you get sick, what do you do?
Yeah. But see, if we get out of that mentality, we can find that better solution.
Healthcare, it wouldn't be a necessary evil.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, that's why I call it a necessary evil, because you're damned if you have it, and you're damned if you don't. So
You're probably damned more if you have it.
now.
Who knows what research these people have really done? What was your?
Going back to the example, I was going to say that it's going to the source, like you said, and like we watch in the movie, when you're experiencing, you can just understand your father kind of like he was in the system, time, he experienced other things that you don't, so that's why you understand better.
But if you find that common ground where, like Frank said, that the goal, his goal, your goal is to find that better world. That's the common ground. And what do you want? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody was fed? Wouldn't it be nice if there was no war? Wouldn't it be nice if there was no, and then you just, it could take a year, it could take 5 years, it could take 10 years. Who knows you're younger, the older you are, the more conditioning you receive. I mean, it's going to be easier for my daughter to understand these things at age 5 and 10 than it was for me, because she's experiencing it now. I've been experiencing things like this for about maybe 5 years. So your dad, I don't know how old he is, but he's gone. And I don't know if you guys keep up with the movement or talk to Fresco. I have some recordings of him where he says he used to hang out with younger people. Oh, Jock, why do you hang out with younger people? Because they're not set in their ways.
They're less conditioned.
If he hung out with people and he was like 60 or whatever, he didn't hang out with 60-year-old because.
My dad was born in 1939. So I'm from that older era.
So we make, and it really comes down to how much research you've done in reaching people. Because there is something you can do and say to reach them. You may not know what it is. I may not know what it is. I can't reach everybody because I haven't, explored all the options. So.
As long as you're faithful, the opportunity will present itself for an explanation or a fragment of information that might change his life.
Ultimately he's going to have to re-examine his own values to make any type of relevant change. And so if he never does so, or that is very difficult for him to do that. If he doesn't have new information about why things are the way they are and how they can change to be different. If he does not choose to re-examine his values and evaluate what he really wants for you and your grandchildren or your children and his grandchildren and stuff like that. It's very difficult sometimes for people to not accept what you want them to believe it. But that's one of the problems of life that we all have to deal with sometimes. It's, other people don't think like we do, even though we think that they should. But I wish you well. I hope things get better for you.
Is there sign-ups or some sort of form to the? Because I briefly saw the Blogspot website.
Yeah.
I would like to say something. Frank is my husband, my son, and I'm his, his mother. And I've been following his movement, and at first it was kind of hard for me to accept it. I was like, what are you doing, all of this. But then I went to do some investigation and all he does and all that he goes through and stuff. And I realized that what he's doing is something that is great. And so I backed him up. But at first it was hard. But then he has started educating me and showing me what he wants to do in his life. And I'm like, it's a good idea. So that's why I backed him up. It's hard because I'm older, I'm way over here. The difference between me and him are huge, But then I realized that, I can change as long as I gather with these young people and learn from them. But it takes a lot to learn, but I'm learning. It's a good idea.
This is a sign-up sheet if you'd like to.
All right, I'm going to end this.